So you say you want a revolution. Well, why don't you believe in the power of your thoughts? I'd like people to explain to me how you're going to have a revolution, but yet you don't believe in the power of thought. When you're up against this level of corruption and darkness, and you don't believe in your own power to operate outside the system to affect change, how's that going to work? Is it simply because you're smart enough? You're pretty enough? And gosh darn it, people like you. How is it beneficial to cut back your own power and say you can't affect change on some level in this matrix via the thought patterns that you're emitting? How about a preparedness situation? You're headed out. You're going solo. You got your grab and go pack. And there's drones up ahead. Are you going to imagine yourself invisible to their gaze? Or are you going to focus on them seeing you and shooting you and maiming you as you run for cover? Which way of thinking about this is better going to serve you? We have lots of stories we can cite about people in tremendously challenging circumstances where someone is crushed by a car and their daughter or their wife lifts up the car, because in that moment of fight or flight, there is no room for questioning our abilities. There is only time for action. Well, we're in that situation right now, and we're being crushed by this system. You don't have a choice but to start changing the way you view the world. The revolution is not taking place on Facebook. This is DARPA's control grid. And they pluck people one by one that say things, even ordinary things. We should restore our republic. Investigate 9/11. Look at the story of Brandon. It's a psyops. To terrify you into submission and self-censorship, but also through the holographic reality. Convince you that eventually you're going to go. We've been under this tyranny for a very long time. The Patriot Act was passed a very long time ago, yet some of us are still free. Yet people live in a world where for a full decade they've just been waiting to go to the FEMA camp any day now. And the nightmare lives on in their imagination, not the physical world. Oh yeah, there's real bad shit coming to this country. But you might as well face the truth about what that danger actually is. And it's far more expansive than U.S. troops, private mercenaries, cops, pulling you by the hair and taking you to the rape rooms. There are other threats coming. This is why DARPA is surveilling the emails of veterans, the Oath Keepers, many others. They don't want us waking up. But why serve them? Why serve their dark agenda? To frighten you into submission. When we have this time to create intentional communities. I mean, it's therapeutic when you come together with other truthers and you talk about reality. When you talk about possibility. When you care for one another and you don't argue and you don't bicker over, oh, I believe this and this person believes that. That means I can't be their friend because he's way out there. How is that freedom? How are you going to have a revolution unless you believe in the power of your own thought? What martial arts instructor teaches his students to be terrified of the enemy when it's time to defend yourself and strike back against the enemy? You want to strike fast, strike hard, and you want to strike through your opponent, knocking them out with one punch. You want to believe you have that ability if you ever have to defend yourself. I mean, one punch knockout, brain going back and forth, watching them drop, eyes turning in, and you. But who? What martial arts teacher or boxing teacher, or what military strategist teaches his troops to be afraid of the enemy, to be afraid of telling the truth? They don't do that. They teach you confidence. They teach you to tap into that spirit. Now, sometimes it's used for darkness, but it can be used for good. There are many people around you that will remind you about the power of thought, and using science to back that up. Many studies. So how is there room for your revolution if you don't believe in your own power and your own safety, or a concept of divine protection? What's the danger in that? I'll tell you what the danger's in. And just assuming you're going down for the count. Just because there are psyops, well-funded psyops, with your own taxpayer dollars, working very hard to frighten you. We've got all these announcements about DHS, not only the hollow point bullets, but of the troop movements, and we have the situation with Brandon being taken into the mental hospital. The impact of that is just huge to make people stand down. And there's more ways to stand up other than pulling out a gun, and other than voting. Other than a revolution, controlled revolution, where they control who the enemy is, so they have somebody to fight, which is you. And other than just expecting the candidate that you like and that you trust with all of your Federal Reserve notes and all of your energy and all your Facebook posts, there are other ways. Look at the diversity on this earth, the plant life, the artwork. So how can we boxed in to two options? Not just the Republican Democrat option, but the option of armed revolution, a controlled revolution, or this candidate is my candidate is going to win because we said so. Well, what if the game is rigged? On a level that may include those people running. And much love to Ron Paul. Much love to Ron Paul and the people he has brought together. There's power in that even outside of depending on Ron Paul. How can we apply this power of thought to the movement as a whole? And cross the boundaries, cross the camps, beyond Occupy, beyond 9/11 Truth, beyond the Liberty Movement, beyond the intentional communities that exist right now around co-ops, local currencies. I mean, we're talking about a ripple effect that crosses beyond the boxes that some are trapped into at this moment. If the grid were to go out tomorrow, you would see a lot of these intentional communities out of survival sprout up and create change in their own world, and it has the power to influence neighboring cities and counties, because it's going to come back down to the local level. There won't be any time or room for blaming DC or praising DC. Could be a solar flare, could be something else. Why view these things as a frightening experience instead of a learning experience? We're all here on this earth to learn. And we're here to learn to become powerful beings. And you're going to have your body pushed against the wall until you start to realize that your survival relies on more than how much ammo you have stored for your 9mm. Power of thought to change the minds of the troops that have been sent to kill you. Remember, they're just men. They're souls just like you. We don't need to be boxed into this war mentality. Fear, fear, fear of our fellow brothers and sisters. That's what all the zombie apocalypse propaganda is all about. This concept of a plague being released, or people just genetically changing and going to dinner on each other. That's sick. It is you that is the angel in training. You weren't sent to earth for a reason. for no reason at all. It is for a reason. There is a purpose to your existence. There is a purpose to your life. There is a purpose why you have a consciousness, a non-physical, non-local consciousness that is not limited to your brain or anything that can be affected by the chemicals, whether it be the fluoride in the water or the genetically modified food. Believe in the power of thought and that you are more than the body. And you don't have to be a slave to the games people are playing on you. The winners understand this. They understand the power of thought, the power of prayer, the understanding of divine protection. And the losers are those that are writing their own death warrant, that are foreseeing and visualizing that door kicking in and their bodies being dragged by the hair into a white van or a black van or a van with painted purple with pink polka dots. It's one thing to be concerned. It's another to just give your power up.